Dune 2.
Dune
Dune
2.
2.
Overall thoughts, Ben, before we get into details.
All right, overall thoughts, enjoyed it. I was a reluctant fan of the first Dune, let's say. I've never actually seen the original Dune film all the way through. I've
Oh,
watched
there
it
was
in
an original
pieces.
film?
Oh hell yeah, David Bowie,
Oh,
I think a bunch of other it's ill. And this one, especially the first one, like some of the shots are straight, original film redone. Just, they did the same exact shots, etc. So there's actually a video where people will do a comparison, and that's really did make me. And I'm not a fan of Blade Runner. Dennis's film he did before this, the Blade Runner 2049. I really disliked it for a lot of reasons. I don't really want to get into it. That's different. So I didn't even see the first Dune until it came to HBO Max, I think.
okay.
I really thoroughly enjoyed it when it was on HBO Max. So I thought it was a great film. I just loved the pacing of it for the most part. That there are some issues that I felt came up in the first one that come up in the second one again. And I liked Timothy more than I thought I would, and I
Okay.
really enjoyed all the other people like Jason Momoa. I think that's one of his best performances is in the first Doom.
It is.
Yeah, I really enjoyed just
Even
the
though he's
whole
playing himself.
world, the look, everything about it was really dope.
Yeah.
This one, Dune 2, I'm not sure if I enjoyed more than the first one, but I really still overall thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's going to be one of the big, I mean, it's dropping tomorrow, so it's not really summer, it's about spring, but this is the summer season now, as movies in Hollywood counts it. So I think it's going to be one of the big, huge hits of the summer. It delivered on the things that I wanted. I wanted more worm action because I just love the worm so much, but it also had some epic, worm moments. Zendaya, obviously, we'll talk about that more. That's more, get into it. But a lot of the movie rests on her shoulders to me, and I think she
Hmm.
did an incredible job with it. I thought that their relationship could have used a little bit more defining, and that's what I will say. I felt like there was. I mean, well, no, okay, let's get into more nitty
Okay.
gritty.
Let me
Yeah,
get my overall.
yeah.
So I enjoyed Dune 2, and I actually enjoyed it more than Dune 1. Dune
Mm-hmm.
2 is much faster. It is much more action focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, particularly for Timothy, because I actually did not like his character much, if at all, in the first Dune.
Hmm.
I actually started liking him a bit more,
See, I
and
like them less, but
I
go on.
okay, and I saw the vision, and I had recently watched Dune 1. I watched it on Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
and it while I thought it was a good film, I had my misgivings, and there was a few things. The characterization I mentioned, I didn't like Timothy that much, and more so because of what he's supposed to represent and
Mm-hmm.
how he is represented, how
Mm-hmm.
that character is represented specifically. Uh, Paul, um,
Atreides.
yeah, Paul Atreides. I don't like contrived Masonic type of characters where it's
Mm-hmm.
just like they are the one, they are
The
the
chosen
Neo
one.
and the chosen
Yeah.
one. Like, and I understand there's stories the world over that follow that, and in every type of medium you could think of, but it's just for me it was just painfully contrived. And again, I don't know, maybe it could just be the way it was expressed on screen, but I was just like, and also it's on purpose, right? You're not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily supposed to like him, right? You're not supposed to believe that he is this guy, right?
Yep.
But I still it felt fraud to me
Mm.
from the beginning, and I just didn't vibe with it. And again, I'm still talking about the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I The fight scenes were obviously slow, like where I'm just like, this doesn't look good. So
Also, by intention,
it
there.
looked highly choreographed, and if it was by intention, it didn't look good. Not for me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, like the way that their shielding works is you can only get through it by being slow. That's the way their hand to hand system. Like when they turn on those shields, you can't. slash through it. You had to stab through it slowly
slowly,
or
yeah,
cut through it
and
slowly.
they repeat that a few times. Like you
Yes,
see artillery going through the
things
shield slowly.
slowly. Yeah.
The problem with that for me is when you're watching it on
Mm-hmm.
screen, where and you could just say, "Oh, you're just not used to." When you're used to action, if I'm gonna roundhouse kick you, I'm not going at half speed.
Yeah.
I'm going full fucking speed. It would be different if the fighting style was slower to match that type of fight. I just felt like they were still
Mm.
using high velocity fighting styles, but then had to think about this rule of you got to go slow because of the shields. When you do when you slow down high velocity type of movements, they look slow.
Okay, that's still getting into the
Yeah.
weeds of it. So
No,
overall,
it just
yeah,
it just wasn't my thing. So,
yeah.
yeah, so for one, I had my misgivings, and but I said, okay, maybe they'll fix this, and to me, they did. And two, they much more fast. It was much faster. The story itself was much faster. There weren't for me any really big lows. There was huge lows in the first one that way have been hard for people to get through, which is what I keep hearing over and over again, particularly the first half of the film. I for Dune 2, I just thought it just went straight through.
Mm.
And it was almost 2 hours, but it was a little longer. It was
Oh no,
Dune
this show's
1
almost 3.
Dune 1 is 2 hours
Two.
35. This one is 2 hours 46.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it just didn't feel as long as the first one, which is interesting, even though it technically is longer. So
I thought this one felt longer to me, and
mm,
I understand why people think the first one is slow, but when I rewatched it the other day on Netflix as well, I was like, damn, this movie jumps right into it. Like these niggas get to the planet, and within that quick minute, niggas trying to be assassinated, and then the niggas invade, and the movie's over. It's
it
like
gets
it
to the
don't really,
story, but
yeah.
there's a lot of long shots and cinematography and looks happening before you get to those story
I just
points.
really enjoyed that. I think because I think that was the thing. Like that might have been what I was missing from this film was the Oscar Isaac. I really love the mother Jessica. That's what's the actress's name who plays Jean Bezeret. I loved her in the first one. I thought she was quite good in this one as well. But I think I was missing Oscar Isaac and as well obviously Jason Momoa, who both take L's in the first one. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert.
Um,
Yeah,
to me, like I said, it was probably one of Jason's best roles, but to me, he was playing himself, or he
as always.
playing the same role he always generally plays. So
Yeah.
I didn't think anything too remarkable about it. But if you want to talk about for me remarkable, Zendaya.
Oh yeah.
Zendaya's Chani, and especially in this film, the way she carries like
Rebecca
she
Ferguson, sorry.
she's the one to me. Like the way that her Zendaya is just a fantastic actress anyway, but the way that she's able to show the dynamicism of Chani and how Chani develops throughout her relationship with Paul and with everybody around her and the changing world around her.
Hmm.
Like and as mentioned, Zendaya knows how to emote. So when Zendaya is fucking pissed, Zendaya is fucking pissed. When
Hmm.
she's sad, when she's happy, whatever, you vibe with it because you believe her. You believe what she's saying. And was so impressed with her because this is Zendaya, the action star too.
Hmm.
Zendaya was throwing hands.
Yes.
There was a point where I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I yelled out, "Damn, Zendaya, go get it!" Like
Hmm.
because Zendaya, for me, at that moment, she was indistinguishable from a double. Like in terms of an action double that's coming in to stand in and do all the
Hmm.
hard scenes. Like as far as I know, that was her that whole shot.
Let's hope so, because it was
If
definitely
it
one of them.
was,
It was one
goddamn
of the things where they
Zendaya.
could have flipped it, either way, like because it could
They
have
could
been,
have. They could have. But
yeah.
if it was her, you fucking did that.
And it was so dope to me too because that shot is a flip of the shot that they did in the first film when it was Timothy, and it was a reveal to be Timothy, and then it was like the reveal to be her. I was like,
Gotcha.
oh
Gotcha.
yeah, I was streaming right alongside you, so that was really
Gotcha.
dope.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I liked Paul Atreides or the
Yeah.
thought of what he's supposed to represent. I liked it more, but I still didn't necessarily like that character. Still, I liked him more than I did the first time,
And since we're getting into it now, I
but
will
not all the
say,
way.
yeah, okay, that's the thing. Like that's one of my big reluctances to see the first film. Other than that, I thought Blade Runner was really misogynistic, and so it really made me feel weird about Dennis's whole affair or whatever it is. Um, over, I'm not sure how to pronounce that word. Um, Filmography, basically. So, and the other side of it was Dune from the book draws liberally from Arabic culture, from the Arab world. It's just ridiculous. And when they filmed this film, there's not a lot of people from that culture working on it. Obviously Dennis is French, I think, and white, and pretty much most of the cast and crew were the same. And even in this film, there's a lot of brown people in the background, and then a lot of besides Zendaya, and
And Denise is Canadian, but he's French Canadian, so
yeah, white. And besides Zendaya, I'm trying to think. No, yeah, a bunch of other white people. And as me and Tatiana mentioned, even in the first Dune, all the brown people get murdered off. My man Janice, Shorty, who's the
Jamis, yeah,
Jamis, who's between two worlds, Jason
the
Momoa.
Judge of Change,
Yeah, the
and
Judge of Change. So it was kind of like, this is kind of funny style. And that was like I said, it's kind of the same thing I felt about Blade Runner was like a lot of women, a lot of violence against women for just no reason. So that was one thing that I was kind of reluctant to see. But then what I did enjoy about the first one, and I thought that they did double down on it, but I'll get to why it annoyed me in this one, was the fact that he is a false messiah. And that Gene Bezeret and other people have been planning this religion among people for hundreds of years to, have this idea so they can control people. And that's really said in this film. If you get people to believe in anything, you can get them to, follow you. If you say there's a Messiah coming, they'll wait for a Messiah, which was a real, that was a real hard one to deliver in this
yeah, that
film.
was hard. The
Yeah.
Bene Gesserit.
Yeah, the Bene Gesserit. Yeah. So I thought that was dope. But what annoyed me in this film was Timothy, when like at certain points when his character is like, I'm the man, basically. It was like, nah, dude,
Yeah,
I don't know. No.
that's
One
what
of these
I
people should
mean.
step up and slap the shit out of you at this
That's what
point.
I mean. I'm like, I don't like that,
No, and
and you're not
I don't
supposed to, but I didn't like
yeah.
that.
And it really depends on how they go with the third film. But at this point, I still feel that most people are just trying to lean into the idea that Timothy is the hero of this story, or
Yeah,
Timothy's character Paul Atreides, which he definitely is not. Like, as it's not spoilers for this. Dune is known. It's a tragic story. It's about a dude who knows that by him becoming the leader of these people and everything, he's going to form a cult and it's going to cause untold horror throughout the galaxy,
yeah,
and he can't do nothing to stop it. It's like he's being fated to it. And something else you said about Dune and this whole, with that hero and the whole idea of the one, that's what people don't remember is Dune is so influential on everything. But because it comes after, or for the public consciousness, it comes after everything, people are like, oh, you're just biting Star Wars, you're biting this, you're biting that.
apparently it was
Well,
first or
it's the
before.
very first. All Star Wars is biting Dune. I even had to realize that not biting, but there's elements of Jimi Hendrix, Purple Haze that are influenced by Dune. I realized that when I was watching the movie the other day. I was like, wow, oh, there we go. The influence is strong. And it is what it is. That's what I'm saying. Dune is so highly influential that a lot of these tropes that come from it, it's the originator of them.
Yeah, and I had to learn about that too because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything. We've talked about Dune before many times because you talked about you not so much of the books, but the fact that you know the story so much. And
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about Dune,
Mm-hmm.
and so this is my first foray into it. And now with the understanding that it was first, like it is like monumental in terms of the sci-fi components,
Oh
right?
yeah. I
And
mean, on everything
the
from Star Wars to Warhammer 40K to
yeah,
Blade Runner to
yeah.
everything. It's just so influential on it.
Yeah, and I liked and that's one of the things that I did enjoy why because I love sci-fi. So I did
Mm-hmm.
enjoy that about film 1 and film 2, the sci-fi elements. So the tech obviously, right? Grand Duchess. The
Mm-hmm.
the the pseudoscience, the magic science, all of
Yep.
that stuff, the spacefaring a part of it, the tools that people were using like as you mentioned the personal shields, the ship shields,
Mm-hmm.
the artillery that was used, the type of weaponry that was used, tools for war, tools for just living like
Mm-hmm.
the type of systems that the Fremen uses, like
Mm-hmm.
that shit is insane. Like
Yep.
everything about like from their suits to everything that they use to survive in the desert. Like I just thought like it was so inventive, right? Just from a like who thinks of that shit,
World
right? Like
building.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
right, right, and the world building behind it, and obviously like the bestiary, like we talked about
Mm-hmm.
the worms and shit like that. Like everything about it's insane, and then the ships. fucking the ships. Like the fucking helicopter type dragonfly
Mm-hmm.
ships. The ships that all the ships look
Or
like bugs.
orthocopter, I think is what it is. Yeah,
The orthocopter, and they call it a
orthocopter.
thopter.
Yeah, thopter.
Orthocopter, right? And I was like, isn't I thought it was like in one of Da Vinci's, like when he was drawing like
Mm-hmm.
the helicopter,
Flying
it
machines.
looked
Yeah, Da
like
Vinci
this,
flying
right?
machines. Yep.
And just that idea of like, and again, just like simple. It's like you said, it sounds like other later series and fandoms actually borrowed from Dune, right?
Yes.
Like that idea of all of the ships looking like bugs.
I mean, a desert planet,
The desert
Tatooine.
planet,
Like, you know.
Borg, stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
everything. Like the Borg
everything.
look like fucking
The
Batista's people.
the
Like
Harkonnens. Yeah.
the Harkin. Yeah, I keep calling him Batista's people, and actually I kept calling him Drax every time he was on
Oh yeah.
screen.
No, white Drax and bald white Elvis for all day for me. Look,
Yeah.
you know, bald white
Batista, it
Elvis.
looks like Drax in this. Like he's just Drax in a black suit. That's all.
Yeah, white
And he's
Drax
not funny or nice. That's all.
and bald
So,
white not at all.
not all.
Yeah,
But yeah, I just it is a monumental film. It is a big film, and just as far as how I felt, or just the storyline of two, like it wasn't slow. It gave you a lot of action, and
hmm
this is separating it from the 4DX experience we were in. Just what we saw was pretty incredible. I will say that. Um,
yes,
was it perfect? No. There were still concerns about, again, how we felt about Paul and some of the dialogue for me. That idea of that a lot of this is cribbed from Middle Eastern cultures, like damn near
problematic.
all of it. So
Yeah,
I was just like, I don't know how I felt about that. That was also kind of, a thing. It didn't take me out of the film, but I did keep thinking about that. Like everything they're doing, from the language to how they're working and living, it's straight from different Arabic cultures. So
yeah. Um, like you said, it's not a perfect film by any means. I definitely thoroughly enjoyed it. I do want to see it again. I want to see it on the big screen because it's one of these films where I'm like, wow, there was some imagery and some shots that I just need to see again on a big screen.
yeah, it looks fantastic.
It looks absolutely. I mean,
You
Dennis
should,
has always delivered on that. That's
yeah.
something I will never take away from this man.
His
His
visuals are on
are
point.
on
See
point.
it on a big screen. If you can't,
Yeah,
that's okay. But if you can, see it on a big screen.
yeah, as big as possible. Like, goddamn, some of them shots with the worms when they're riding them, some of the battles in the desert, like them, the way the Freemen, their way they fight are so ill that it was definitely very dope. Problems that I did have with this film were again pacing and what we choose to focus on. Bald white Elvis, Austin Butler, who plays Fade Rathu Harkonnen. I'm sure a lot of this is from the books. Like I said, I know the overall main story of the books. I don't know its every little detail. So his character just felt like when somebody's introduced and it's like, here's the new bad bad for the season. So they have
Yeah.
to, as you know, here's a great one. Because I get to reference one of my favorite shows, Power Raising Kanan. For those who've been watching the latest season, the character of Ronnie, who I fucking hated all season, gets introduced at the beginning of this season. And as soon as Ronnie's introduced, he has to take out the big bad of the last season. So Ronnie comes in and takes out the big bad of the last season. And it just felt contrived to me. Because it was like, no, Ronnie, you're a cornball who walks around in the same fucking jacket all season. I don't find you terrifying. I find you annoying. And that's how I found bald white Elvis. I never found him terrifying like I found White Drax in the first film.
Yeah.
I found him annoying. And it was like
White Drax
Yeah.
Drax was terrifying until he wasn't, right? Well, not
Yes.
terrifying. He was a scary individual. He was more brooding and like, oh, this man is unhinged
Yeah.
until he wasn't, right? And this one,
But
to
he
your point, was
wasn't-
just violence
He
for
got
violence
jobbed. You know, in wrestling parlance, he got jobbed in this film.
sake.
because,
He got big time job in the film.
yeah, and he was terrified up until they jobbed him.
Right,
And that's
what I mean. Like, but yeah, the Fade Rotha, that character, it was just violence for violence sake, and he didn't serve any purpose besides like big bad of the week, and then so.
And that goes back to the pacing of this film, which like it was weird because it's like they did the exact same pacing for the first film. There's a big battle, and then it ends with another smaller, more personal fight. But while that personal fight with Janice in the first film was more like I wasn't sure what was going to happen, not knowing the story. This one, you know what's going to happen because it's like this nigga ain't going, like this nigga whole crew already done up. Like nigga, it's over, fam. Like either way, and you ain't gonna win this. Like we already know. Like one of you is not the hero of the story, dog. Like,
One of you not making out of here alive.
Yeah, and we know who's the hero of the story. Pretty Paul is not going down, fam. Like. So it just felt, I get that might be from the books, but I just felt like there had to be a better way to do that. And maybe it's also because I just really was annoyed by this nigga by that point. So I'm just like, please get rid of Bald White Elvis. Like, please done him off. I just don't believe it. I haven't believed it from the moment he stepped on screen. And that's another, like I said, a lot of this shit's dedicated to this dude that I felt like could have been dedicated to the love story of Paul and Chani because I didn't believe some of that because it's so rushed.
Well, and that was right. I was just about to say in terms of the pacing, there are several time jumps during the second thing that it's a bit off-putting. You're just like, whoa, why? How did we get there?
Yes.
In fact, there was a scene, and obviously I'm not going to say anything about specifics, but there was a scene where someone in our theater was like, wait, what? Just like, you can tell that they were just so confused, and they just vocalized what we were all thinking. And we were sitting there, and literally the entire theater bust out laughing because we all like,
felt them.
Yeah, we're with you.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
Wait, what?
We went from point A to point J. What happened to the in between? And it was some choices made in the cutting of the time jumps that it just did not make it it wasn't a clear jump, and it just wasn't apparent of how people got there. And I don't mean into physical places. You got fast travel. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about relationships and things that happen between people, and maybe conversations that were probably said, but that got clipped. And now we missed the whole thing, and we don't know what happened between folks, right? So, then you would see a scene where something completely opposite to what you know these characters would happen, and you're like, where was that in between point? So, some questions on the pacing.
Yeah, definitely some questions on the pacing, but overall, I thought it was very solid. Even with my questions on the pacing, I can't be mad at that at all. It was definitely a solid ass joint. Did what it needed to do. The action was crazy. It leaves you, definitely looking for a part 3. And I think that it's going to be, super successful enough where we're going to get the part 3 of it and get the completion of the story. Because even though the story of Dune goes on much further than what a part 3 would be able to encompass, I just do not see them going past where part 3 ends because the story of Dune gets utterly insane, as if it's not already.
What if this makes $1 billion?
I know. You know what? That's the thing. I would like to see it because I would like to see them go down that road of utterly of batshit insane where this franchise goes. So it would take part 3 making $1 billion as well. So
yeah. I did also, just from a more like intellectual standpoint, I did enjoy the challenging of like religion and the politics behind lots of organized religion and the people who make it, and as you said, the false prophets and all this stuff, and how it's used for controlling populaces and things like that, and how it affects people who have true faith and then people who don't have faith, and what does that mean? The infighting between those two groups, and that's very interesting. It's like an indictment on that whole thing, and it's done in the form of a space opera, right? So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and that's something that goes back to Dune has always been about that, the idea of a false messiah. That's something from the book, so I thought that was very dope. And like I said, that's what really made me like the first film when I saw that Dennis wasn't shying away from that. And I think that is even more so said in this film, but I'm just not, it's one of those things, I've talked about this before. One time I made a student film, and I was really trying to talk about the way that, Black people might smoke and drink a little too much. And my professor at Howard was like, yeah, but you made smoking and drinking looking so good. So why would people not want to smoke and drink when they watch your film? And that's the same thing I feel here. It's like, even though he's supposed to be the false prophet, they make him look so pretty and good and so heroic. And, he's the badass and all this shit. Like when people watch this film, I don't think they're gonna come away thinking he's a false prophet or what he's doing is wrong. I think they're going to come away like, yeah, let's see Paul
I mean,
Atreides take over the universe.
they said that it was going to happen, and it happened.
Yeah,
He must be him. Word is
yeah,
Stilgar, right?
yep.
Like, so, and that was my man's body. Javier Bardem is unintentionally hilarious in
Oh
this
my
film.
God, thank you. All day I was sitting there
So
trying to
fucking
remember
funny.
who played Stilgar because he's
Javier
so.
Bardem, because I know
I
that
know,
voice.
yeah, and I do know it, but I just could not because it's Stilgar. He so inhabits that character that I just could not get past Stilgar. And I was like, oh yeah, it's Javier Bardem killing it as Stilgar.
Yeah, he's and really the whole cast is really good. Like generally speaking,
Rebecca Ferguson, let me shout out again
I fucks with
because
the whole cast.
I fuck with her tough from Mission Impossible, and
Yeah,
I fucked with her tough in the first film when she was telling niggas to kill themselves and shit with
right.
that voice.
I said that's the best. When we first sat down, you started laughing.
Yo,
Kill yourself.
that voice, I fucking love when she puts that voice on. That shit is amazing.
Yeah,
Slit his throat. Right?
finish that.
Yeah, that shit is so cold blooded. So I loved her. I loved her in this one. Christopher Walken as the Emperor
I laughed again, unintentionally hilarious. Every time he showed up, I'm like, this is Christopher Walken being Christopher Walken wearing Emperor clothing, right? Like
I felt like they kept cutting away.
He was talking like himself.
Yeah, and I felt like they kept cutting away so that they wouldn't give you the full Walken, so it's like that way.
He was going full Walken in this, and that's why I'm like, and it was when it was supposed to be
trying not to.
And that's the problem. It was supposed to be the most. It was supposed to be the most like serious moments, and it would be full Walken, and it's like those are two incongruent things. You can't have that. Oh, just one thing I want to say that I also enjoyed about this film. Like I enjoyed about the first, but I think it was even more so enhanced. The cinematography and the effects and the photography that the philosophy of the photography of the film, meaning like how they decide to light things, the color, what do they call it? Not color scheme, but the
color grading,
like all of that stuff, like everything about it, like
the color scheme,
everything about those approaches, depending on where you were, like what planet they were, what group of people they were with. It was so well done because it was very deeply thought through. You can tell, and like it fit within the context of, again, that culture of the people or whatever the scene was, right? And it was some shit that I like the way that they showed it. I had never seen before. Like there's a scene on the Harnikin, how you pronounce it, the Harkonnen planet where like they're having a celebration, and the way that they showed this celebration happening and the way their planet looks when they're all outside is completely different than what you see elsewhere. And we talked about it earlier. You see the influences of other sci-fi characters and themes from this. So it was crazy. It was crazy. And I don't know, was that the way the shit looked? Was that direct from the book, and Denise just translated it, or did he kind of mix it up?
Well, I know Arrakis and Iraqi and all that shit is, obviously from the book, the Sand Planet. I'm not sure how the Harkonnens because in the original Dune film, they're dressed similarly, so I think that is from it. Because they always wear that blackish armor that's like very ornate and gothic type shit. So I think that is from the book, that the Harkonnens are that type of vibe.
Like gothic mixed with Nazis type of thing.
Yeah, I think
crazy.
And once again, that, as you see, the Empire, it's that same thing. Darth Vader is influenced by the Harkonnens. All this type of stuff comes up again and again. I was even thinking about Thor: Love and Thunder. As much as I dislike it, there's that scene where they get into that black and white ish, and I was wondering if that was influenced by this.
Oh.
If it did come from the book. If it does come from the book, then definitely that's influenced because
I mean, it's just some beautiful things that I just don't want to reveal, because like when you guys see it, it's like, oh shit, the way that they executed
that was all in the trailer
phenomenal.
though. That's been shown like the
okay,
but
black,
like,
they know why it looks like that. Like they explain literally in the announcements, they explain why that place looks like that. So I don't know if you remember.
I might have missed that, but no, that's in the bald white Elvis is all in the trailer in the Gladiator pit. So that's all been shown.
Elvis though,
because that's what I saw.
Well,
Elvis.
I know but
and like that's the thing. They said Austin Butler had to go to like a therapist to stop doing the Elvis voice.
Really?
Yeah, because
he's a method actor, huh?
Oh man, he was doing the Elvis voice everywhere. Like at award shows and shit, he'd still be doing the Elvis voice.
They had to shake him out of that.
Yeah, they had to shake him out of it. So
Okay.
I don't want to know what they had to do to shake him out of this one because
Ben, would
slap
you
that slap that nigga around. Somebody needed to.
slap the show? Ben, would you recommend Dune 2?
Oh hell yeah! I mean, come on. I like yeah. This is like it's like I say, kicking off the summer season. This is definitely gonna be one of the best, I would say, movies of the summer. Definitely, easily. Like for a big popcorn action flick, you can't do much better than this. This is some shit.
Yeah, I have to absolutely agree. I would definitely recommend it. I would actually see it again.
Yeah.
A couple of people we ran to a couple of friends while we were there, and this was their like second, a couple of them maybe third viewing, or they
Mm.
were gonna see it like today or tomorrow. So
Oh, okay.
as I just know it's gonna be a huge movie, a huge film that's in the box office when it's released, and it's gonna be worth it. It's worth your time. It's worth the effort, and I am looking forward to part 3 for sure.
Yeah, and I've talked about this before on the show. Like, I have this fascination and fear of like kaiju-sized monsters. Like, I don't know. It's something that's all my life. It's just gargantuan-sized creatures just weird me out, and so the worms really weird me out in a way. But they also I have that same respect and feel that the Freemen have of them, that these are some godlike creatures, that this is something else. And I love the way that they're portrayed in this film. And you get that feeling of just, it's like when you played Shadow of the Colossus, that feeling of these are just some great beast, something,
Yeah,
yeah, just some otherworldly ish. And God, I love that, man. No, I love the way those things are, like, yeah. Oof.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
happy about that. I'm glad we got that experience. Shout out to 40X.
Yes.
Um,
And shout out to Dune too.